And today it's Taco Tuesday, it's lunch hour, and we have our guest today, Dr. David O. Garcia. And just as a quick introduction here, Dr. Garcia, he is an assistant professor in the Mel and Enid Zuckerman College of Public Health at the University of Arizona. He has extensive experience in short, long-term intervention trials in the areas of physical activity, diet, and weight management. He received his training from lead institutions and mentors in the field. Since 2006, Dr. Garcia has worked on numerous funded research programs, included research funded by industry, National Institutes of Health, and foundations. So this includes working as a lifestyle interventionist, exercise physiologist, in several clinical trials with overweight and obese adults, morbidly obese adults, and individuals with type 2 diabetes. The long-term vision of his research is to implement and evaluate large multi-site trials to systematically influence community environments and eventually policies in order to improve health among underserved population. So thank you very much for joining us today, Dr. Garcia. Let's all give him a big virtual round of applause.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So just to start off, I know that a lot of your work is centered around health disparities. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about what are health disparities and what are some health disparities specific to cancer?
Sure. Again, thank you all for taking this time, particularly during lunch and yes, Taco Tuesday, to engage in this format. And again, kudos to the community outreach engagement team, specifically Octavio and Monica, and the rest of the team for kind of pulling this together during this difficult time. So I appreciate being the first, particularly on Taco Tuesday. I take great honor in that.
Yes.
But yeah, so related to cancer health disparity, so by definition, a health disparity is basically a gap. So a difference between two groups at its very simplest form. So a health disparity can exist due to numerous factors, but with regards to cancer specifically, for instance, there are cancer health disparities within racial ethnic groups. So for instance, you may see higher prevalence rates of liver cancer in like Mexican origin communities, specifically amongst men and women compared to non-Hispanic whites and non-Hispanic blacks. There's also disparities that exist for like breast cancer, colorectal cancer, and so forth. So again, by definition, a health disparity is that gap. And we see largely these cancer health disparities due to numerous factors, whether that's reduced screening rates potentially, particularly at colorectal cancer, in addition to liver, for instance. But we also see that with regards to lifestyle behaviors, just in general, with obesity rates. So there are 13 obesity-related cancers, and this kind of parallels with some of the health disparities that we see. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. And I know a lot of times, we see some data that can be kind of disheartening or heartbreaking when you see these, and I know you talk about specifically the preventable cancers, and how some of those rates that just because you fall along the lines of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status, it can determine your outcomes one way or the other.
Correct.
So Dr. Garcia, you mentioned that you work with the Nosotros research program. Can you tell us a little bit, a bit more about that program?
Yeah, happy to. So I developed Nosotros. We are committed to your health a while back with Bout, who's now at UMass Amherst. So he's my former doctoral student and now an assistant professor there. And basically we developed it as you can see with the logo, as an identifiable community engaged research collaboration that really is kind of meant to provide service education to kind of advance health equity efforts. So at that time, Nosotros is kind of our research program, the hub, for which all my research is conducted. And I know you have some of the research programs that we can, the research studies specifically that we can talk about. So yeah, so Nosotros was really made as a vehicle to kind of advance health equity in the community, specifically for underserved or underrepresented populations.
Awesome. So that was exactly what my next question was. Can you tell us what is health equity now that we've covered health disparity?
Yeah, so health equity is basically having everybody having the ability to have an equal playing field, basically, right? So whether it's related to access, SES, or whatever, it's trying to achieve equality across the board. So, you know, I think access is the one that comes to mind right away. And I think one of the biggest examples, particularly from an academic perspective, we kind of all seen the fence as described for health equity. So just so for the audience, so the fence, generally there's three individuals, like a little kid, someone who's maybe like 12 years old, let's say, and then an adult. The adult can actually see over the fence without help. But in addition to that, like the little kid needs a box, right? Or two boxes to kind of see over the fence. The other kid needs maybe one box, and it's trying to make everybody equal. But in reality, the best thing that we do to try to, you know, that equitable across the different groups, right? In that particular case, we're using age as an example. The fence would be see-through, over the fence. It actually have a fence that's transparent. So in reality, it's trying to make things equal across the board, and in general sense, health equity.
Great. So my next question is, why is it important to be gender and culturally sensitive with your approach to this type of research?
Yeah, so the work that we do, and by we, I mean Nosotros in general, and even in some cases the COA team, you know, we live in an environment that about 40 to 30% of our population is of Mexican origin, right, or Hispanic or identify. And with that regards, we have our own unique, you know, cultural, you know, aspects related to our diet, specifically, or just our cultural norms. And that can also go for even American Indian populations as well. And so it's important to recognize that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach to what we do. There's little nuances, particularly within our cultural beliefs, that kind of dictate how we live our lives, and particularly when it comes to our lifestyles. In addition to that, there are gender norms. So specifically some of the work that I've done with men, for instance, there are gender norms within the context of, you know, related to Hispanic men, the role of a man as a provider. So, you know, we have to identify that, but also kind of turn that on end to say that, you know, not only being a provider as a man is important, or is it perceived through our work, but in addition, being a provider and being a role model for health is something that can kind of lead. So that's just one example. But again, I think that, you know, from a broader perspective, relating it to, again, back to gender or culture really ensures that we're not taking a one-size-fits-all approach to a very complex problem.
That's great. And I know that you try to do outreach, sort of meet the people where they're at. I know that the swap meet is part of that. What other types of places are you guys going to?
Yeah. So we're, the team's generally known for going out to the swap meet, as you discussed. I obviously grew up going there, and that's something that we kind of engage with largely. We're also at like every of the neighborhood centers. We're at the Mexican consulate. Generally any type of community health event. So like there's nice, well, there was prior to COVID, gatherings for the Loop. And obviously anything provided by the American Cancer Society and so forth in combination with the COA team. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to engage with the community. Again, it's kind of just coalescing us all and making sure that we complement each other and have a united front to kind of serve the community appropriately. So we're basically in any venue that will have us.
That's great.
So how are you handling the new challenges since with all the social distancing? Are you guys doing more outreach through online, social media?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I think that kind of relates to COE and what you guys are doing right here is thinking of new creative ways to engage with the community that we serve. So we are actually circling back and also thinking about how we could have that outreach within the context of social media, as you suggested, with like Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. You know, I know some colleagues are working with text messages as well. So how do we kind of bridge that gap now that I think, you know, we're about 2 or 3 weeks in to everything. So I think now we're all starting to find that new norm, and how then do we kind of harness that? So we are very much still exploring it. But from a research perspective, we did have to take a step back, unfortunately. But that's part of the good thing of social distancing. We have to be healthy from a public health perspective.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the animal weight loss study?
Yeah, of course. So Animal, again, kind of paralleled Nosotros. So Luis and I, we did a lot of qualitative research. And by that, I mean semi-structured interviews for those people who are familiar with qualitative work, to kind of inform the development of a gender and culturally sensitive weight loss intervention. And that's actually Animal. So Animal was, at the time, delivered in 2016. It was a randomized controlled trial, basically pilot feasibility. Could we recruit? Can we retain? And can we help Hispanic men lose weight? These studies, well, now that's now published, and I'm happy to provide you with those papers if anybody's really interested. But in general, could we recruit men? Yes, we recruited 50 men in about 3 months' time, largely through, again, the swab meet efforts. We were able to retain about 80% of that sample at 12 weeks and 24 weeks. And on average, our weight loss was 14.5 pounds at 12 weeks and 24. So this is largely one of the more successful pilot trials that we've had, clearly, and it is officially one of the first weight loss interventions specifically made for Hispanic men to date. So that's kind of a gist of what we did. It was tailored, again, for gender and culture, different aspects. Particularly giving information back to the individuals who kind of engaged specifically. So that's in general what Animal was. That was our first weight loss study.
That's great. So with a weight loss intervention like that obviously has its health benefits, right? But will that also have a way of addressing Arizona's cancer burden if we do?
Yeah. I think your question is if we were able to scale it up or provide that or disseminate it more to the community, could that help?
Yeah.
So, again, relating back to there's 13 obesity-related cancers. And then we're going to talk about liver, but specifically, if individuals are able to lose weight or independent of weight loss, just become physically active, they can reduce their risk of cancer. And so ultimately, just promoting healthy lifestyle behaviors could have that impact, particularly in our catchment area.
Awesome. What is the Luna liver ultrasound study?
Yeah. So Luna is funded through the American Cancer Society internal grant, in addition to the Center for Border Health Disparities. And really what we're trying to do is assess the percentage or prevalence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in a community-based sample. So the swap meet, the consulate, and so forth. In 200 Mexican origin men and 200 Mexican origin women, so sample size of 400. This is being done because generally the rates that we see in the literature are really from clinic-based samples. So when someone kind of presents after the fact. So we're using some liver ultrasound technology to assess the prevalence of fatty liver, basically, and fibrosis, so kind of the inflammation in someone's liver. In addition to that, we are assessing the prevalence of a genetic risk allele. So by this, I mean just 1 in 2 Mexican origin adults have a high risk just due to this little risk allele in our genes called PNPLA3. And that increases our risk independent of our body weight. So we're assessing that prevalence. In addition, we're doing qualitative work, again, knowledge, attitudes, and beliefs about this disease. So to date, before we were stopped, of course, 316 individuals enrolled in that study, 198 women, 118 men in about 7 months' time. We completed all our qualitative interviews, and the other thing that is pretty scary, I guess, if you could say those for lack of better terms, 70% of the population was identified as having moderate to severe steatosis, so having non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and about 15% having fibrosis. So again, it really has confirmed that there is a significant issue in our community because it's basically Tucson and surrounding areas. and that, again, relating back to weight loss or lifestyle, that we could have a significant impact. So that's kind of the steps.
So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, how does that relate to liver cancer?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So basically, there's a continuum of generally everybody has some type of fat in their liver. So if you think about it, so from left, there's like a normal fatty liver, you know, to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, to more progressive, which we call NASH, right? So that's kind of like the inflammation aspect, to like basically liver cancer. So I'm targeting on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease specifically right now because that is reversible with weight loss and lifestyle change. If it progresses to this more inflammatory state, it potentially is not able to be reversed. And right now there is no magic pill. There are no pharmaceutical agents to kind of treat this disease. It's really just improving your lifestyle. So that's kind of where we step in. So in reality, not all individuals who have NAFLD will progress to liver cancer.
Okay.
However, it's very possible again, and that's what we're trying to kind of head off right now.
That's great.
So with everything that we're seeing in the news about everyone being on lockdown, alcohol consumption is increasing. What problems does consuming alcohol pose for the liver, since we're talking about the liver cancer?
I think it's pretty significant. I think, you know, so there's two layers. So in the past, liver disease was largely associated with alcohol consumption, right? In addition to hepatitis and so forth. That was the number one cause. Now it's related to obesity specifically in this rise in liver cancer. However, with these increases of alcohol consumption, I think we have to be worried on a few facets. One, just increased weight gain. I think in general, in its simplest form, in addition to higher consumption of sugar intake. In addition to that, yes, you are going to put a heavy burden on your liver. So it kind of goes back to the other aspect of how much alcohol are you consuming. So for instance, to actually have significant damage to your liver, it's suggested up to 21 standard drinks for women and up to 27, 28 standard drinks for men within a week's time. That's a lot of alcohol, to be honest. I think at this point, with regards to COVID specifically, significant or excess consumption of alcohol is going to increase weight gain. In addition to that, it's also going to lead potentially to like depressive symptoms, right? Our mental health. Now that may not have like the impact from a weight perspective or a cancer perspective right now, but I think that could have potentially long-term impact. So I would advocate for, again, moderate alcohol use during this time. And again, being physically active and kind of following all the guidelines that we could.
And as it relates to cancer, does alcohol in general, does that have an impact on your risk factors?
Absolutely. So it's within so there is guidelines set forth by the American Cancer Society. I believe the new ones just came out, but in the past, part of the debate was like you could have some moderate alcohol consumption, right? That was kind of the general gist. Now, basically, the statements that are going to come out is basically no alcohol, right? It's a carcinogen, you know, it's going to get metabolized through your liver. It kind of spreads. There's no benefit from a health perspective for alcohol, although, again, that's kind of largely debated in the literature. But I think the new guidelines are going to suggest that alcohol should be consumed in moderation in general.
So with us talking about the liver in general, do you think that we should all be looking into getting a liver ultrasound to stay healthy?
You know, I think that's a really good question. That's some of our work, right? Sometimes I've heard this statement that ignorance is bliss, right? So particularly within Mexican origin men, some just don't want to know, to be honest, right? It's kind of like, I don't need to know till it's a problem, then I'll go to the doctor. We're trying to reverse that perspective because in reality, if I can give everybody on this line a liver ultrasound, let's say, and I can tell you where you are, it at least gives you a choice of whether you want to change your lifestyle to reverse it or get you to a different level. So I think a large part of it is our job is to create awareness. You know, that's a measure of screening, and then allow an individual to kind of make a choice of what they want to do. So I advocate for it, and just within the context of Luna, for instance, there's a subset, well, 15% of those 300 and some people who have been enrolled into clinical trials. We've had a couple cases of confirmed liver cirrhosis and so forth. Without knowing, I can only imagine what would have happened if they would have waited longer, right? They kind of know, like they would have probably gone towards liver cancer, and there would have been no back because it's a highly lethal cancer. So I would advocate for, if there's any concern to go get that done, just so you kind of know where you are, because then you have the option to kind of how you want to choose your lifestyle. So I'm a huge advocate of choice, because that kind of goes into the health equity aspect, right? And that's something that we could provide, again, with our clinical partner in some of our work.
Absolutely. And yeah, knowing is half the battle. So if you know where you're at, you can take some action, and that's empowering, which is what we're talking about here today. So are there any participant success stories that you could share, or community success stories?
Yeah. I mean, in general, we've had multiple people reach out, particularly to Rosie Vogel, who's Nosotros coordinator,
Yes.
with you saved my life type of examples like that. Like I wouldn't have known, very impactful things that we would kind of hold on to. We have enrolled at least a handful of people into clinical trials that would not have received treatment otherwise, or would not have known. Again, kind of relating back to, God forbid, we didn't step in at that time, what would have happened to them. In addition, we did qualitative work. So the qualitative work brought people in after the fact. And some of the data that we have seen, we were just examining it this morning, suggests that even the brief contact alone, like one guy in particular lost 26 pounds, just having that brief interaction, and no lifestyle treatment. We just basically gave him the information, brief, like if you change your lifestyle behaviors, and he went on to actually change his behaviors on his own, because that was his aha moment, as I call it. So I think there's numerous examples of that, particularly within our group. In addition to that, just kind of like even within our group, like our team who have gotten liver scans and how they've changed their lifestyle. So we see it a lot, and it's really meaningful to see that, particularly when you run out to people in the community, and it's like, oh, we remember you, right?
That's amazing. Because yeah, it's kind of like you met them and there was this fork in the road, and they could have gone one way or the other, and you helped them stay on the right track. That's great.
Right.
So historically speaking, how have human beings changed in terms of how we live, how we interact with the world today and around us, and how has that caused a rise in chronic health problems?
Good question. So I think traditionally, and I mean, really taking a step back, because some of my colleagues are anthropologists, we were hunter-gatherers. There was this, we were a physically active society, and as we obviously got more progressive over the past century or so, we've had cars, we had more technology, we kind of have things that kind of promote sedentary behaviors, but also very obesogenic environments. So for instance, having fast food locations generally at every other corner, right? So we have, as we become more developed, we rely on more technology, in some cases, even like right now, right? We are sitting down in a Zoom format due to some circumstances. But in reality, it's the combination of everything, our evolution, food abundance, our built environment. There's differences, obviously, going back to health disparities again, like SES differences, social contextual factors. So I think there's multiple layers that we have to address. But as we call it, we are very westernized, right? And that we have somewhat forgotten our roots of like farming and so forth. So I think in general, COVID actually has provided a nice opportunity to kind of help us all reflect on what's really important, I feel. And I think that over time, at least it seems to me, at least, and through my experience, that it's helping reframe some of that for me, particularly like family time. I just went on a walk with my kids before this happened, before this interview, to again kind of center myself. So I think there's a lot that we have to learn, but also be able to kind of recognize.
Absolutely, and we're all reconnecting, but also thinking about where does our food come from, and where does our medicine come from, and yeah, all those things are really at the forefront right now. But what we talk about chronic health problems, I know one of the big ones is diabetes. So why is diabetes such an important condition to address with these populations that you're working with?
Yeah, so diabetes is fairly prevalent, specifically in the Mexican origin community. So estimates suggest about 20%, but that's actually diagnosed cases. There's a lot that so there's probably about 50% undiagnosed. In reality, it's kind of, they're all obesity related conditions. So non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, diabetes generally go hand in hand. So it's actually suggested that if you have NAFLD, that you actually have diabetes, and vice versa. There's a bidirectional relationship. In addition, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, again, kind of going to that myriad of health conditions, are all risk factors, again, for cancer, whether it's like chronic inflammation and so forth. So again, you know, individuals who are diagnosed with cancer or cancer survivors generally don't succumb to the actual cancer itself. It's generally to another comorbid condition, so diabetes or cardiovascular disease or so forth. So it's really important that we focus on all chronic diseases. And again, going back to COVID, that's what you're seeing, the vulnerable populations, right? Diabetes, clearly we're an older adult population. It's not really that they're older, it's just that they're older with potentially more complications, right? Because you get cardiovascular disease with age. Diabetes now is seen more prevalent in younger generations, but on average, the mean age is around 44 for individuals who participate in research and so forth. So I think it's just a combination of everything.
So what would you say the impact diabetes are on cancer? If there's any direct or indirect impacts on cancer?
Yeah, it's pretty significant. So there's a well-known relationship between diabetes and cancer. And it increases your risk. I don't know the exact percentage, but definitely a subset of specifically like even liver, right? If you're diabetes, you're at greater risk for having liver cancer in general. Kidney is another good example of that. So there are a lot, yes, having any type of comorbid condition, particularly diabetes, increases your risk for cancer. And that's fairly well established.
That's great. So a lot of what you're talking about today, like I said, is very empowering. It's can on one hand sound like intervention. That's kind of a harsh term. We're going to intervene on what you're doing and set you back on the right path. But I find that a lot of what you're talking about is very empowering because, like you mentioned, the more you know, the better that you can take accountability, but also you know, make steps to ensure that you can be healthy. So with that, are there any recommendations, like for example, for diet? I know that you're a big advocate of a plant-based diet. Is that something that you would recommend, even vegetarian, vegan, for everybody? Why or why not?
Yeah, no. So in general, you know, I subscribe to a vegetarian or diet based out of just choice. Again, I do it for like my health, but I also do it for ethical reasons at this point. I think that what works for me may not work for you or work for Dr. Gallagher as well. So I think it's kind of whatever fits that person. In general, there is no specific diet that I'd say follow, right? So there are recommendations for the USDA, so United States Diet and Agriculture, excuse me, that is a guideline for Americans, right? There are physical activity recommendations, and I can kind of recap those. But in general, I don't like the term diet. It's just my lifestyle, right? So for me, there is nothing that is kind of off the table with the exception of my choice. But it's everything in moderation, right? So even, again, going back to alcohol, yeah, consume alcohol. It's okay, just in moderation, right? If you're gonna have sugar, moderation and so forth. So I really advocate to something that is feasible to maintain throughout your life. I don't want a Band-Aid on things. And then being physically active, again, so the recommendations are being 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week of moderate intensity physical activity. So that's similar to a brisk walk. That's the general recommendations, 150 minutes per week. But yet only about half of the population kind of achieves those goals. So again, maybe it's not appropriate to say, everybody does 30 minutes. Maybe it's easier for you to do 10 minutes, right? Maybe it's easier for like my nana or whoever else to do a lowered level, but just to become active. And that's actually suggests too, reducing sedentary times, just kind of walking basically. And that's the best thing. We don't need special exercise equipment. Our exercise equipment is our feet in general. Now we do have warmer months here, so you have to do that different times of day. You don't want to increase your risk for skin cancer, right? You don't want to be out between 10 and 2, but you have to plan accordingly. So anybody listening, my general subscription to lifestyle is basically just do something that you can maintain for your life, that is not going to create stress, and that is feasible. In addition, if weight maintenance is your goal, honestly, just step on the scale every day. That's all you have to do at the same time every day. You will know very quickly if you're gaining weight over time if you self-monitor your weight. And this allows you to adjust. And again, self-monitoring is the cornerstone of all behavioral treatment. So just stepping on the scale is a form of that. And you know how you can adjust your diet or physical activity accordingly.
So aside from diet and physical activity, do you have any other general lifestyle recommendations you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, so I think, I'm an exercise physiologist, and I like to think that, that saves the world, and being physically active and independent of body weight. Yeah, like fitness is an indicator of health. We know that. However, you do have to have a nice balanced diet, of course. And then, my colleagues, Tracy Crane and others who are focused on sleep. Because in reality, you have to have this triangle between sleep, diet, and physical activity, in addition to having, if you take it from a huge public health wellness perspective, there's spirituality and so forth. So, and even your mental behavioral health, right? Particularly in these times. So I think, in addition to just lifestyle behaviors, I would advocate for a holistic approach to your health. And that's something, honestly, I think that we all should actively work towards, particularly your sleep, stress, and so forth, particularly with the links, particularly stress and inflammation to cancer. That alone could potentially help.
I like that. And the moderation, like you said, everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yep.
As Oscar Wilde said. So how much exercise should we be getting each day? Or is that, again, depends?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 30 minutes, right? 5 days a week. Minerals, that is the recommendation. But I think just anything kind of like more matters, right? So I always say, and if you have a Fitbit or something else or anything for that instance, just try to do a little bit more every day, or just like engage in physically active lifestyle. So it doesn't have to be, going to a gym, particularly right now, we can't. Just literally go outside and walk around your block if you're social distancing, practicing all the safe practices for 10 minutes, and then come inside. So I'd always do like a rule, like 10 on 50. So at the 50th minute of every hour, just go walk for 10 minutes over 6 hours. That can help you achieve your physical activity recommendations and beyond. So again, I think where we get not lost, but we have competing interest, right? Time is always our priority. And how we kind of overcome barriers is planning. And that's kind of the key to being physically active, I feel.
So with the current COVID-19 pandemic going on, do you have any diet or exercise tips that will help boost your immunity right now to help us stay healthy and stay at home?
Yeah, so yeah, it's funny that you asked that. One of my doctoral students wrote an article on that, Melissa Lopez Pentecost. And so specifically, and this is coming out, I think, in the Daily Star within the next week, she focused on specific vitamins, A, B, and E, actually, to kind of boost immunity, A, C, and D. Specifically. So really kind of just having that balanced approach, making sure you're getting your vitamins, of course, going outside, not during those peak hours, but to activate your vitamin D. In addition to that, being physically active. So, we have, for instance, like a step challenge through the College of Public Health right now. there are different avenues. We do have access now to technology that there's classes on YouTube. There's even walk at home videos that you can do. So whatever you're going to do to kind of increase your heart rate, right? Similar to, again, a brisk walk is going to be beneficial. It's also very good for your mental health as well. And, honestly, like even with my kids, trying to incorporate them into anything that you do. So that can even make like scavenger hunts inside the house. Just make it fun and kind of step outside your box at this point.
That's awesome. So are you participating in that College of Public Health Steps Challenge?
Yes, part of the COE team, right?
Yes, you are.
Hopefully we'll continue to do well. That is, again, a nice way to also foster social support and accountability.
Yes.
Right? Because now, like, I'm accountable to our team, and that, again, is one of the major predictors of being physically active is having social support. So, that's another thing, and not only just having, your unit that's within your household, but in addition to using the technology that we have at our fingertip to kind of unite, and I think there's like 8 people on our team that we all kind of then can talk to each other and understand where we are and root each other on to be physically active. So that is very helpful.
Yes, and we're all in it to win it.
Right.
Yes, obey the sachet. So with that, we would like to open the floor for any other questions that anybody has, but if not, these are the ways to get a hold of us. And there's a picture of the Nosotros team.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for allowing me to have this to talk to you. And if anything, it is 12:38, which means we're going to end early, that 10-minute walk that I was talking about.
Yes.
Excellent.
Are there any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. Thank you to Dr. Garcia. And I'm so sorry I did not introduce you, Dr. Monica Yellowhair, but she was my co-host during this whole thing. And she's the assistant research scientist here for our COE team at the Cancer Center. But yeah, we'd like to open it up. Any questions anyone might have? If you think of any later, you can always email us. Our emails are right up there for you, as well as our social media. Dr. Garcia, where can people find information about yourself, the Nosotros network, the studies you have going on?
So you can search, so the Collaboratory for Prevention and Treatment of Chronic Disease, basically, or you can search my name and you can find all the different descriptions of our projects, in addition to like my contact information. So yeah, if anybody's very, interested, just send an email and I'm happy to have those discussions.
Okay, well, great. Thanks for joining with us. And again, we hope to talk to you soon. So with that, I'll just go ahead and end our webinar now.
Thank you guys. Excellent job, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.